As Charlie stepped out of the car, a group of masked thugs suddenly appeared. They coldly opened fire on him. Despite being shot repeatedly, a miracle happened. Charlie survived. The movie opens with Charlie Matei returning to the city after a pleasant trip with his young son Anatoli. As their car nears the bustling streets, Anatoli excitedly spots a street performer and pleads with his father to stop and watch. With a warm smile, Charlie agrees, letting his son run ahead while he searches for a parking spot. However, the calm quickly shatters. The moment Charlie steps out of the car, he is ambushed by a group of masked men who unleash a brutal barrage of gunfire. Miraculously, though riddled with bullets, Charlie defies the odds and survives. As consciousness begins to fade, a flood of memories from his past surges to the surface. He sees himself as a young man in prison, sitting across from the grizzled mafia boss everyone called Old Timer. In a low, gravelly voice, Old Timer delivered a somber warning. Once you enter the world of crime, there's no way out. Back in the present, Charlie is rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Surgeons labor relentlessly to save him, meticulously removing one bullet after another, 22 in total, from deep within his battered body. In another twist, we are introduced to Tony Zaki, a powerful and cunning figure whose sharp appearance mirrors his ruthless nature. Upon hearing news of Charlie's condition, Tony's calculating demeanor raises a chilling question. Could he be the mastermind behind hiring assassins to eliminate Charlie? Meanwhile, the shooting rocks the nation, dominating headlines on every major news channel. Anchors disclose that Charlie was once a notorious mafia kingpin who had retired from his life of crime. This revelation intensifies the intrigue and tension, deepening the mystery surrounding the brutal assassination attempt. In the following scene, Police Captain Marie Goldman steps into the spotlight, her determination evident as she takes a personal interest in the case and heads to the crime scene to lead the investigation herself. Meanwhile, as Charlie fights for his life on the operating table, haunting memories from his past come flooding back. He recalls his younger days, particularly the devastating moment he learned of the brutal murder of his mentor Old Timer, a man he deeply admired, at the hands of a merciless rival. Consumed by grief and a thirst for vengeance, Charlie joined forces with his two closest allies, Tony, Zakia, and Karim, to craft a bold plan of retaliation. Their target, Hernandez, a notorious gangster they believed was responsible for Old Timer's death. Driven by rage and a shared thirst for vengeance, the young men swore an unbreakable bond of brotherhood. With unwavering resolve, they executed their plan and brought down Hernandez, sealing their fate as they stepped into the dangerous world of the Mafia. In the present, Police Captain Marie Goldman finds herself under increasing pressure from her superiors. Her boss urges her to abandon the case, dismissing Charlie as nothing more than a retired mobster and suggesting that gang violence doesn't warrant police involvement. Yet Marie refuses to back down, determined to uncover the truth and ensure justice is served. Undeterred, Marie pressed forward with the investigation, determined to unmask the mastermind behind the attack. She visited Charlie in the hospital, where he was recuperating from an arduous surgery. Despite her persistent questioning, Charlie remained tight-lipped, his silence shrouding the room in an enigmatic tension. Frustrated but resolute, Marie left the hospital, disappointment flickering across her face. As she departed, Charlie's lawyer Martine arrived, accompanied by his two closest allies, Karim and Pat, their expressions a mix of concern and quiet resolve. That night, as Marie tucked her son into bed, a sudden and troubling phone call broke the quiet, sending a ripple of unease through her. Old wounds were torn open, and the memories of her husband's death flooded back with unbearable clarity. She spent the rest of the night in silence, seated in the darkness, a drink in hand, as the weight of her loss pressed down harder than ever. Elsewhere, Karim wrestled with his own storm of emotions. Consumed by anger and grief, his resolve for vengeance burned fiercely. Bound by unwavering loyalty to Charlie, he vowed to do whatever it took to uncover and confront the person responsible for the attack, no matter the cost. Martin, however, urged Karim to remain calm and wait for Charlie to wake from his coma before making any rash decisions. Before parting ways, Karim firmly reminded Martin to stay vigilant and never leave Charlie unattended. Meanwhile, at the hospital, an ominous sense of danger began to take hold. A man, disguised as a member of the medical staff, slipped through the corridors unnoticed. Moving with precision and purpose, he approached Charlie's room. Without hesitation, he drew a gun, flung the door open, and unleashed a barrage of cold, calculated shots at Charlie. his actions as ruthless as they were deliberate. The sharp crack of gunfire echoed through the hospital, sending staff and doctors racing toward the source. Inside the room they discovered a lifeless body, but to everyone's shock, it wasn't Charlie. Captain Marie, always one step ahead, had anticipated the danger and relocated Charlie to a secure room before the attack. In the aftermath, Marie acted swiftly, ordering heightened security measures and setting up a dedicated surveillance team outside the hospital to ensure Charlie's protection. As she closely monitored the situation, an unexpected figure arrived, Tony Zacchia. Claiming to visit Charlie, his presence only deepened the cloud of suspicion surrounding the case. During his visit, Tony seemed genuinely relieved to find Charlie alive. With a composed yet subtly ominous air, he handed Charlie a congratulatory card before departing, leaving behind a veiled warning. Surveillance cameras were everywhere, and the police were watching closely from an ambulance stationed outside the hospital. Not long after, Karim and Martine arrived to see Charlie. Acting swiftly, they made arrangements to have him discharged and moved to safety. Observing this, Marie sprang into action. Resolute in her determination, she decided to tail their vehicle. Intent on monitoring their every move, Karim quickly noticed they were being followed and wasted no time in stepping on the gas to lose the tail. Not taking any chances, he also called a friend for backup. When a momentary distraction caused Marie to lose sight of them, Karim headed directly to an abandoned warehouse. Inside, one of Tony's men sat tied to a chair, visibly trembling with fear. The panic was so overwhelming that he couldn't maintain his composure, even wetting himself in terror. Charlie, calm yet chillingly composed, leaned in and reassured him with an icy tone. Nothing would happen, as long as he cooperated. The terrified man, trembling under pressure, insisted he had no part in the shooting, but divulged a chilling revelation. Tony Zacchia, once Charlie's closest friend, had ordered his men to track and eliminate him. He went on to explain that Tony resented Charlie for leaving the criminal world and entrusting control of the drug empire entirely to him. Now consumed by paranoia, Tony feared that Charlie might one day return and challenge his authority. The confession left Charlie stunned and deeply shaken. The idea that his most trusted ally was orchestrating his downfall was a betrayal he had never anticipated. Without hesitation, Karim urged Charlie to take action and eliminate Tony, but Charlie was still conflicted. Tony had been his closest friend, the one with whom he had shared countless vows and memories in their youth. Those shared promises weighed heavily on him, making it impossible to act without hesitation. In the end, Karim relented, and Martin drove Charlie home, where he was greeted with warmth and relief by his family. The heartfelt reunion offered Charlie a moment of solace amidst the chaos. Meanwhile, Karim returned to his own home. However, as he stepped out of his apartment late that night, the quiet was shattered when Tony's men appeared from the shadows. In an instant they kidnapped him, dragging him away into the darkness. It was soon revealed that the plot to kidnap Charlie had been carefully orchestrated in advance by the very man tied to the chair in the warehouse, the one who had spilled all the details. His attempt to regain Tony's favor ended in failure, as he was shot dead on the spot for his betrayal. To add to the horror, the assailant took one of Karim's fingers and sent it back to his family, a brutal message meant to strike fear and serve as a chilling warning. Charlie, consumed by work and his daily routines, had been oblivious to the unfolding tragedy until the devastating news of Karim's death reached him. The shock hit him like a tidal wave, leaving him shattered and inconsolable. At the funeral he stood in silence, watching Karim's family mourn, his heart weighed down by an irreparable loss. As he absorbed the heartache around him, a surge of anger and fury ignited within Charlie. The pain of the moment fueled a relentless thirst for revenge, consuming him entirely. Before setting his plan into motion, Charlie instructed Pat to swiftly move his family to a secure location, ensuring they would be out of harm's way in the coming storm. That night, Tony's associates threw a boisterous dinner party, reveling in their victory as though the brutal torture and murder they had committed the night before meant. But their carefree celebration would be short-lived, for Charlie was no longer the man they once knew. He had become an unstoppable force, ready to exact his vengeance. Without a weapon in sight, Charlie offered them one final opportunity to say their goodbyes, for soon they would all pay with their lives. His demeanor remained ice-cold as he singled out one man, the one who had shot him before, recognizing him by the distinctive watch on his wrist. With ruthless precision, Charlie shot him dead. his expression unwavering. The air was thick with menace as he moved through the scene with terrifying ease, evading any consequence, leaving the remaining men paralyzed with fear. The following day, one of Tony's henchmen went to the graves of the fallen, preparing to light incense in remembrance. But before he could even strike a match, death found him as Charlie appeared from the shadows, coldly ending his life without hesitation. Realizing that Charlie had begun taking matters into his own hands, Tony immediately ordered his men to raid Charlie's home, intent on locating him and his family. However, their search yielded no leads, leaving them empty-handed. Meanwhile, Charlie, oblivious to the pursuit, was calmly enjoying a peaceful moment with his loyal cat in a quiet corner of the city, unaware of the danger closing in. Moments later, Martin, Charlie's lawyer, arrived at the house, only to be taken aback by the chaos inside. Everything seemed poised to spiral out of control. Panicked, Martin immediately tried to contact Charlie, unaware that one of Tony's henchmen had been tailing him and had uncovered Charlie's hiding spot. Before long, they were surrounded. With cold determination, Charlie stood his ground, facing the attackers with unwavering courage. Meanwhile, Martin attempted to make his escape, heading for a boat in a desperate bid to flee. However, one of Tony's henchmen caught up with Martin, trapping him with no escape in sight. Meanwhile, Charlie made a desperate bid to flee on a motorcycle, with Tony's men hot on his heels. His escape attempt was short-lived though, as he crashed into a police car and was swiftly arrested, forced to confront the law. This fateful encounter brought Charlie face to face with Captain Marie Goldman once more. In the interrogation room, Marie dropped a bombshell, revealing a crucial detail from her investigation. She had found several bullets embedded in the wall at the crime scene which could potentially uncover secrets Charlie had never imagined. Her discovery suggested that, of the 5 gunmen, one had not intended to kill Charlie. This revelation cast serious doubt on the case. After careful deliberation, Marie chose not to arrest Charlie right away, convinced that Tony Zacchia was responsible for her husband's death. That night, Tony Zacchia was seen celebrating his daughter's wedding, a stark contrast to the ruthless actions he had orchestrated. Unaware of the danger lurking just outside his house, Tony remained oblivious as Charlie silently waited in the shadows. In a swift move, Charlie captured one of Tony's henchmen, holding him at gunpoint. With chilling composure, Charlie demanded that the man hand over all the information on Tony Zacchia's ongoing drug transactions, intent on unraveling the dark secrets surrounding him. When Tony learned of the events, rage consumed him. He abruptly left the party and rushed to his drug lab, where his fury exploded. Losing all sense of restraint, Tony issued a cold, unforgiving order to his henchmen: "Capture Charlie, dead or alive." The next morning, Pat went to pick up Charlie's 2 children, Anatoli and Eva, from school. What began as an ordinary day quickly turned into a nightmare when a truck screeched to a halt beside them. In an instant, the men inside grabbed Anatoli and Eva, kidnapping them before speeding off. When Marie arrived at the scene, she realized the worst had already happened. It wasn't long before the police found Eva and brought her to the station, but Anatoli remained missing. Eva, her body bruised and battered, collapsed in exhaustion and revealed a heartbreaking truth. Anatoli would be killed unless Charlie surrendered himself. As Captain Marie left the police station, Charlie unexpectedly appeared, sliding into the car beside her. He made a desperate request, asking her to help fabricate a news story claiming that Charlie had been captured. His hope was that this would convince Tony to stop hunting him and release his son. Charlie, desperate to save his son, promised to surrender if Anatoli was returned safely. Marie reluctantly agreed to help him. However, when Tony learned that Charlie had been captured, his fury intensified. He swiftly sent one of his henchmen to eliminate Anatoli, now that the boy was no longer of use. Unbeknownst to anyone, Charlie was tracking the thug on a motorcycle, silently following him to the location where Anatoli was being held, determined to save his son before it was too late. Inside the house, another of Tony's henchmen stood guard over Anatoli, waiting for the order to kill him. But when the command came, the henchman defied it, quickly releasing Anatoli instead. At that moment, Charlie, hidden outside, found himself tangled in barbed wire, struggling to break free. As the thug dragged Anatoli out and shoved him into the trunk of the car, Charlie burst from his hiding spot, attacking the henchman with ruthless fury. He beat the man senseless and swiftly freed Anatoli. When Charlie returned home, he told his wife that they no longer needed to stay in hiding. He had taken care of Tony's entire crew. The following day, as Tony relaxed at home, Charlie unexpectedly appeared. Despite everything that had transpired, Charlie was ready to put the past behind them, valuing their long-standing friendship. However, consumed by his relentless thirst for power, Tony refused to let go. He was determined to end Charlie's life once and for all, regardless of their shared history. Tony slammed Charlie to the ground and pressed a gun to his face, but when Tony let his guard down, Charlie seized the opportunity and turned the tables. Just then the police arrived, timing their intervention perfectly, and arrested Tony for running a drug operation. It was revealed that Charlie had secretly worked with Captain Marie to gather the evidence needed to expose Tony as the drug lord. When the police questioned Charlie afterward, they found no evidence connecting him to the drug trade, and with no grounds to hold him, they were forced to release him. As Charlie stepped out of the police station, Martin picked him up and Charlie quickly asked him to take them to the parking lot where he had been shot. When they arrived, Charlie was stunned to realize that it was Martin who had fired the shot at the wall that day. Betrayal surged through him as he pointed his gun at Martin, but Martin quickly explained that Tony had ordered him to kill someone, without revealing who the target was. He admitted he was horrified to learn that the target was Charlie and had been unable to follow through with the order. In a twist, Charlie had intentionally shot at the wall as a way to silently thank Martin for sparing him. The final scene shows Charlie and his family enjoying a peaceful day at the beach, walking happily together as the sun sets.